I help you? Yes, have you got it? Well? Great, thank you, officer. That's all I wanted. Payment for services rendered. If you continue to stay here, I just ask that you please pay your nightly bill in advance starting tomorrow.
He's not sorry about his behavior for your sake. Now that you have money, he really wants to make sure you're not angry with him.
The electronic lock to your room has been disabled till 9 p.m. tomorrow. Please pay for each night in advance starting tomorrow. 20 real per night.
I'll take a room here too.
Of course. Always happy to have officers from the RCM as guests. Anything else I can do for you?
This is the door to the room you redecorated.
Just a moment. You had some questions earlier, I believe. And besides, we should discuss our progress on the investigation. Let's go out to the balcony.
The air outside is brisk. The lieutenant is silent for a moment. He listens to the traffic hum. Then,
Where shall we begin? We should talk about the investigation, first and foremost. But I also remember you wanting to discuss the RCM? I have a cigarette every night when I go over my notes. It's something of a ritual.
oh man, he looks so devastatingly cool with that cigarette.
You mean this? This isn't cool. It's an unnecessary trial of will, and unhealthy.
Keeping the habit within the parameters he's given himself takes a lot of focus. It would be easier to simply quit.
I apologize, but I only brought one with me. I have exactly one cigarette every night while going over my notes. Yes, it's been a long and eventful day. We performed a thorough initial inspection of the victim's body, so that's good. One could say it's the main thing to do in a murder. Then you shot the body down, which was quite a shot. I admit I wasn't sure whether I should give you the gun, but I'm glad I did. Your shot enabled us to perform a field autopsy on the victim. We found some things we can really work with. Moreover, you found that the hanged man wasn't just hanged, he was also shot. That was some excellent detective work. And you managed to locate and pull out the bullet, so we can get ballistics, make off the gun. All this is invaluable. The rest is up to the boys in processing. Maybe they will surprise us by doing their job for once, but I wouldn't count on it. There's still work to be done at the crime scene, however. We mustn't forget that. Now for the interviews. Including Everard Clare, a daunting adversary, if there ever was one. He wasn't particularly forthcoming with useful information, however.
He's not saying much on the matter because he thinks you could have gotten more out of Everard.
Claire also helped you, how should I say, remember your name? That's a relief. You can look into the process of changing your name after we finish this investigation.
Kim must have had doubts about his name at some point too, but deliberately discarded them.
Change? No, not exactly. But I think all of us at some point imagined what our lives might have been had we been something else. And then we feel trapped by the names we've been given as symbols of the intentions and expectations of others. Even if I were to change my name now, upon hearing any syllable that sounds like Kim in the street, I turn to see who was calling me. But let's move on to the Wild Pines rep. No, we didn't. It's very important that we do it tomorrow, latest. Above all, though, today was exhausting. What's with all the running? You run a lot. Is that a standard Precinct 41 practice? Alright, but, and forgive me, this has been bothering me since this morning. How have you managed to run around all day wearing only one shoe? Well, there seems to be a shoe that is a match to the one you're wearing further down the balcony. Perhaps you can collect it when we're done talking.
He's right. There it is, green and shiny under the glowing whirling window. The sky above is dark and the lights sparkle.
Imagine how much faster you could run wearing a cool patent leather shoe on each foot. They're quite limited, actually. The power officers of the Revachol Citizens Militia exercise most frequently is imposing fines of up to 1,000 real for offenses, in accordance with an interdepartmental schedule. The RCM's primary role is to ensure safety. We are not really supposed to play any part in the economic structure of Revachol. Yes, although indirectly, as citizens can always request records from their local station. Officers of the RCM have been known to take bribes of less than the prescribed fine amount. It undermines trust in the RCM. We can arrest people, of course, but rather than bringing someone in directly, it's preferable to serve a station call slip. It prevents confusion and overcrowding. You can't. Those who don't show up become fugitives, though, and have fewer legal rights when they are eventually caught. It's about power projection. Thus far, they seem to mostly show up.
When power calls you, you come. But power itself is a fragile trick of perception.
We are permitted to use whatever force we deem necessary, even lethal. You have to supply compelling evidence for why it was necessary to use lethal force. In these cases, your partner is usually your witness. Not a good position to be in, by the way. Internal Affairs handles these cases thoroughly, by cross-examining you for inconsistencies. It is hard to cover for anyone, which is for the best. Yes, the last time was 4 years ago.
He says it matter-of-factly and moves on.
That's an improbability, perhaps even impossibility. Precinct 41 is known for a higher-than-average rate of police violence.
He's not judging you. He's respectfully acknowledging the difficulty of working in your precinct.
We don't convict. We arrest and send them to coalition government courts in Couronne and La Delta. The prosecution works off our testimonies and records, which is why it's paramount to keep them. The coalition government, and the moral intern more broadly. The RCM was formed by the coalition government to restore order in the international zone after the revolution. So we did. Now we attempt to maintain that order. No more, no less. Or perhaps it is better to say we were allowed to form. It's a point of contention whether the citizens of Revachol or the coalition government founded the RCM. Be sentimental if you like. Either way, the moral intern leases us the right to keep the peace in this city, and they will take it away if we misuse it.
Or if they think you do.
The Moralist International are the world's largest political organization. You know who they are. They have been running this place after the revolution failed. They're a union of center-left and center-right parties across the Real Belt. Our coalition government is just one of its many projects. They also run the ICP, EPIS, most intergovernmental organizations in the world. What do they believe in? They are Dolorians. They believe they continue the humanist project set forth by Her Innocence Dolores Day 4 centuries ago. Others say they are just technocrats.
Those others say they continue the humanist project set forth by Dolores Day.
Interesting question. It's a blue forget-me-not. Their motto is love, compassion, self-discipline. I think you can gauge what they want you to think of them from that.
Something kind and usual. Something almost self-explanatory. Something ominous.
A historic figure? The author of the modern age? You will have to look elsewhere for opinions. The subject of humanism is too abstract for me. The moral intern are a fact. I try not to have opinions on facts until they change. And it doesn't look like that's about to happen.
It is more than that. There's some kind of affection in him.
Yes, I did, when I was younger. In my 20s, I considered myself a moralist. A blue forget-me-not, a piece of the sky. They're not all that bad.
That's another leitmotif associated with moralism.
But the years have changed that. I don't know what I believe in now. No, I believe in the RCM. That's enough for me. Do you? In fact, we would need them even if you didn't think that way. We are in what is called the twilight of international law. The laws we claim to enforce come from the MI. Without them, we are simply vigilantes. Sadly, it is what we already are to the people of Martinez, most of them at least, especially the Union. Vigilantes. I expect our job here to prove quite challenging.
The dying lights of the city shimmer below. Slowly, like luminous clouds, they pass on his lenses. The lieutenant looks at his slim cigarette, contemplating the next drag. This soldier is the highlight of the day for me, he thinks. This little stick right here. An aerostatic passes overhead, the whiskers of its floodlights on the ground below. Kitsuraga's glasses light up as he looks to the sky. 2 glowing circles.
They really don't like us here. And the mouth on that kid, Kuno. It's different inland, in Jamrock and the GRIH. It's our fault for leaving this place to the dogs, to the Union, to the company, not daring to come here more often. It's like I told you, this place is an orphan, fallen between the cracks. We run this city. West of the river is RCM land. It's incredibly hard. Human beings are... But we are in control, and it's worth it. The organization works, our systems work. If they didn't, the city would disintegrate.
Night. Captain Bartholomew Price steps into the yard. A piebald horse waits by the motor carriage, chewing oats out of an oat bag. Seagulls fly overhead. The sky is black. Captain Price wears a black suit and a standard patrol coat as he mounts the horse to head home. Rows of houses on either side, hunching over the sidewalks, and Precinct 41 with its dome roof growing distant. Around him, the streets are silent. A kid on the corner waves at the captain as he takes the turn on Petition and Main. The horse neighs. The captain nods back. Thanks, kid, he thinks. He's grateful.
Me too. But I wouldn't count on any drastic changes in our lifetimes. Yeah, it's getting very cold now. Let's go.
There they both are. 2 identical shoes, both copiously green and indiscriminately snakeskin, reunited on your feet, like 2 baby crocodiles. It's pretty clear a normal cop is not what you are. Good, they're balanced, comfy. Feels like the only good thing about you right now, truth be told. This is not the cleanest bathtub in the world, but it's cleaner than you are right now. The bathtub slowly fills with water. The water beckons. The water is only lukewarm, but still comforting, like amniotic fluid. A few beer cans are bobbing up and down along your flanks, like sad duckies. You feel nice and lonely, and so tired. The cans continue to bob, as do your thoughts, aimlessly splashing up against the sides of the tub. You see the corpse. You can still smell the cadaver on you. It's going to take more than 1 bath to get rid of that stench. Then, houses along a narrow street. A video rental. Darkness on the planet's curvature. Your fingers grow pale and are covered with tiny whirls as the water cools. The waterline recedes as you stand. You are cold now. Your clothes stick to your still moist skin. The sheets feel at once coarse and clammy against your skin. The bed sags beneath your weight as you stretch out and finally close your eyes. And then, sleep doesn't come. Obviously, you're in bed with your eyes closed, but it's not happening. Maybe it's the bed's fault. Its synthetic filling has separated into hard lumps. The pillowcase smells oddly. It barely covers your toes, stretching over your soft belly. This is your body here, intimate and warm, breathing. Under your thrumming eyelids, you see a dizzying array of colors. You won't get off this carousel quite so easily. It's a little better. Colors, scenes, and half-formed phrases still litter your mind. Part of you is still trying to solve the case, isn't it? Your breathing steadies. A great silence washes over you until your eyelids twitch in your sleep and images start forming.
Do you remember the scent of your childhood? What it says on the can, Harry. Answer the question. You're not kidding anyone, Harry. You don't remember shit. Tell me, do you remember your wife's hand on your face? Do you remember the warmth of her thighs between her legs and in her mouth? Oh no, Funky baby, you stayed. It was the rest of it that left. Or you just stood there, with one hand on the bottle and the other on your dick, watching it go. Tell me, where are your friends? Human beings have friends, Harry boy. Where the hell are yours? No, it's gone. 3 times gone and never coming back. You failed. You failed me. You failed Elysium. Everything. The Pale and the Islas. On the surface. The outer magnetosphere. Burning, furious truth. 8,000 years of written history. You really dropped the ball, Harry. 4.6 billion people. And you failed every single one of them. You really fucked up. No, Harry. You were just talking to yourself. That's all you ever do. Even in your dreams. And the act is wearing thin. The spots of the disco ball fade around you. You'll be back in those cold snakeskins in no time, sweating up the bed. Stinky boy. You're not coming back from shit, thrashing around in that high conductivity state of yours. Bumping into things and acting like a clown. Who are you kidding? You're trying to what? I can't hear you. This is just a word dream now. Jumbled up garbage. The pictures are gone. The bed rises to meet you. A thin, sleep-like state. More glass than velvet, grinding in your head.
So something is wrong. Sleep shouldn't be this bad, this dry, this unnourishing. There's something wrong with your thoughts. Some kind of new type of hangover. Oh yes, party boy, and it's worse than the one before. Just think of the shit you saw. Here it comes too. So soon already. A silent alarm goes off in your head like clockwork, barely let you sleep at all. Time to get those clothes on, Harry. Time to go to work in the shit factory.
Good going, buddy. Oh, just a dream. You have ones like that all the time. You feel even worse this morning than you did last night. You mean, why are you so tired? Too tired and down to even think? It is worrying, isn't it? You can't be a detective like this. Detectives need to be able to think. It's just that your heart has finally pumped all the speed out of your system, Buster. Time to get some more. Don't do that. Stay strong. The hangover will wear off. You don't need to keep doing this to yourself. Speed is a potent central nervous system stimulant. It kept you propped up all day yesterday, despite your debilitating hangover. How else did you think you even got up from this floor? You got up from this floor because of a holy vow you made 16 years ago. With me. To wake up exactly 7:30 every morning until the day you die. Don't be silly. There was no vow. You were high on speed. That was the only reason you got up. You can't detect without it. It's that simple. Are you sure? Ready to live as this pathetic shell of yourself for days? Basically, a week? Let's be honest, 2 weeks, maybe 3. You won't make it. Half the town will be dead by then. You will be fired. Suit yourself, slow, sad shell man. See how you do without your spark.
Morning. I've got some good news. I took care of the body. The thought of him decomposing in my MC wouldn't let me sleep. I'm just glad he's gone. We have other matters to attend to.
The lieutenant is downplaying his contribution. He got up before sunrise to get this done, and now he's quite pleased with himself for taking care of the gruesome business so efficiently.
The union muscle finally turned up, and they look rowdy. We need to talk to them. Everything points to the dock workers' union. The belt used for hanging him, tracks in the mud, the circumstances in Martinez, my preliminary information. Which may, of course, all be wrong. But we still need to talk to them, and it won't be easy. I mean ungovernable. Martinez isn't exactly enthusiastic about the RCM being here. They prefer to be policed by the union. These men here, men who drink beer for breakfast. There's talk of an armed wing of the union called the Hardy Boys, who are responsible for state policing. I think it's them. I completely forgot. Sorry, I had a rough night's sleep. It's them by the looks of it. Loud and nasty, just like the manager said. One loose thread less to worry about, and one big problem to replace it. That would just escalate tensions. No captain would sign off on it. Solving one murder isn't worth a conflict between the RCM and the Debarders Union. In fact, even the death of 2 detectives might not warrant an all-out war. So let's keep a cool head, okay? One more thing before we do. We don't have to talk to them immediately. We can walk right past them, continue with our business.
Good. A power move. Purposefully concentrate on something else first. But aren't you curious to know what they have to say about the murder?
They're in no hurry to leave. They think they own the place. Anyway, I leave that choice to you. Whatever you decide is fine by me.
Just a moment, officer. And there's no public phones nearby?
She's agitated and keeps pulling at the frayed edge of her blanket.
The closest phone booth is down the coast. Sorry for the inconvenience, ma'am.
It's fine, I understand. Thank you anyway. Now then. Please don't trouble yourself about me, sweetie. I was just hoping to make a call, but the Whirling's phone line isn't working. The union office probably has a phone, but I can't really get there or to the phone booth down the coast. And Gary's phone is dead too. The manager was vague about it.
Why would he be vague? This is something to look into later. Ask God, maybe.
Lieutenant Kitsuragi, may I ask what you needed to use the phone for, madame?
To let the young woman who's house-sitting for us know that we may be delayed. Morel, my husband, and our friend Gary were supposed to get back by Monday night, but they're still missing, and I haven't heard from them. I was also hoping she'd heard from Morel. Oh, forgive me for not introducing myself. My name is Lena. My husband and I are staying with our friend Gary just down the street, but I come here for tea when they're away.
A little missing persons puzzle might just be the thing to take your mind off the hangover. You hear that? Someone's missing. There could be foul play afoot. That's right. Now skip the foreplay. Time to dive into the dark alleys. Start shaking down the usual suspects. You know, legwork.
That's just it. This isn't like him at all. He always plans his expeditions so carefully. But you have more important things to worry about. Just some field work, sweetie. Morel is a highly trained scientist. He and his assistant Gary are studying an extremely rare species of insect. But they should have returned by now. They were just going down the coast across the waterlock to set a few traps. He said they'd be back on Monday. What could be keeping them? Oh, sweetie, it's nothing like that. Gary's as loyal as they come. I trust him with my husband's life any day. There's a nameless old fishing village nearby, but we've never had any trouble there before. There is a lot of crime around here, isn't there?
I can't say it's the best part of town, but I wouldn't worry too much about a pair of grown men traveling together.
The lieutenant doesn't want to agitate the woman. Do it. Find her husband. This will surely lead to a cryptozoological mystery with that extremely rare insect. Some fringe science is exactly what's needed right now. Spice up that vanilla murder investigation.
Are you sure we have time to go chasing after bug hunters just now? I did suggest we play it cool, but... if you say so.
Oh, thank you, officers. Truly, I'll be right here if you come across any sign of Morel. Oh, yes. A zoologist. A cryptozoologist, to be more precise.
It's a pseudoscience that attempts to legitimize research into mythological beasts and urban legends.
That's one opinion, yes. And people are entitled to their opinions.
She's used to playing off such insults casually, but they still affect her.
My apologies, ma'am. I did not mean to undermine your hobby.
It's not a hobby, dear. It's a subfield of zoology, one specializing in animal species that are so exceedingly rare that many assume them to be extinct or even fictitious. Searching for such species called cryptids is difficult and often thankless, and frankly, many scientists are too lazy to do it. Universities these days are rarely interested in supporting real research.
She's completely internalized her husband's struggles. They are her own.
Oh dear, I'm not sure where to begin. Well, his expression is slightly grumpy, but his eyes are always bright and curious, like a small boy's. And his palms are quite coarse from all the field work, but he's quite gentle.
You can't go around Revachol feeling grown men's hands. If you want to find her husband, you'll need more concrete information. It's always a challenge to describe the person you know best in the world.
Oh, well, he's a bit shorter than you, but with a larger frame, and he has longish white hair, usually a bit uncombed. You might say wild, even.
The lieutenant pulls out his notebook and begins jotting down the woman's description.
One other thing, he'll likely have all kinds of field gear on him, even if he's not out in the reeds, you know, just in case. We'll be celebrating our 16th anniversary this autumn. Not the most numerically satisfying anniversary, but I like the less obvious milestones even more somehow. Via dating agency, I'm ashamed to say. I was looking to get back into the scene after recovering from my accident, and he'd just divorced. We hit it off, and, well, here we are.
She's skipping over some important parts. Perhaps you'll find out more later.
I hope I've been useful. Oh, sweetie, it's fascinating, but I shouldn't bore you with entomological minutiae.
The lieutenant gives you a sideways glance.
Well, it's a phasmid, technically, but...
Ah yes, Phasmatodea. A diverse group of insects whose bodies resemble twigs, leaves, that sort of thing. Ghost insects, colloquially. Oh yeah. Here comes the interesting.
Where other phasmids imitate sticks or leaves, this one's a living reed. It disguises itself among the reeds here on the Insulindian coast. Hence its name, the Insulindian phasmid. Perhaps you'll end up co-discovering the phasmid with us, officers.
I knew it. We're gonna be chasing made-up insects with cryptozoologists.
It's not made up, officer. I can assure you.
There's a hint of defensiveness to her retort, but also confidence. She seems to sit up a little straighter in her chair.
It's simply elusive, so much so that most establishment zoologists doubt it exists at all. Well, some teenagers making out in the reeds saw one. They didn't know what it was, of course, but there was a brief article in a local newspaper about their encounter with a ghost insect that looks like the reeds. Gary sent us the clipping. Of course, most phasmid sightings turn out to be false alarms, but their description matched the Insulindian phasmid perfectly, and they didn't even know what they were looking at.
Enthusiasm has wiped the worry from her face. Her eyes sparkle behind her glasses.
I suppose I have something of a personal connection to the Insulindian phasmid. All scientists have their little hobby horses. Not at all. Why else would it hide itself so carefully? Oh, I doubt it. No one gets into cryptozoology for the money, sweetie. Yes, it can blend in almost perfectly among the reeds. It's how it stayed hidden all these years, centuries even. Oh dear, I'm afraid I'm not explaining this very well. It is very special. Morel can explain it all much better. I wish you could hear him describe it. Then you'd understand, I'm sure. Surely things can't be that bad?
You sense that she won't judge you, no matter what you say.
You know where we are, right? That's right. And where is the whirling itself located? Yes, indeed. We are in the fine city of Revachol. The new disco dancing. It seems like a lifetime ago. Much has changed, but it is still the most beautiful city in the world. A rare jewel set in the sand between the pines. Everyone says so, even foreigners. Speaking of history, you know what year it is, yes? That's right, dear. How splendid. Here, take this pen. Knowledge should always be rewarded.
Her relief is palpable. She was getting pretty worried about you there, but now she relaxes her shoulders.
I can tell that this is taxing for you, so I'll just ask one more question. What regime are we living under? What mode of government? Nope, sadly not. Revachol is what's called a zone of control under an alliance of foreign powers called the Coalition. We have no government of our own, and what democracy we have is market-driven.
Meaning, buying is voting.
Oh dear, and you were doing so well. There aren't really any cops in Revachol, not in the traditional sense. The status of law enforcement has been a complicated matter since the revolution. But we should stop for today, sweetie. You look like you need a break. Besides, I'm not the best person to explain the big things to anyone.
She's scared now. She's realized you really are brain damaged.
A defeat, I'm afraid. The people of this archipelago tried to build something new. Something different. The rest of the world didn't like it, so they came and ended it. This was 42 years ago. It has something to do with everything. I really don't know how to explain it better.
I'm just a poor woman, she thinks. What do I know of these things? And how can I help you?
You were doing quite well up until the end there. It does look like you're having trouble remembering things, history and places. Remembering reality, in a word. It's very odd.
A sigh. The lieutenant buries his nose in his notebook.
But maybe a fresh set of eyes is what the world needs. And while I'm no doctor, such bouts of amnesia are often temporary, so I wouldn't worry too much.
She means this sincerely. Worrying won't do you any good.
Someone more educated in sweeping matters? Maybe you should ask.
No, I'm not an encyclopedia. I won't be a guide either. I'm a police officer.
Of course. Then, I don't know, someone rich maybe. Wealthy people are educated, though I don't know where you would find a wealthy person in Martinez. But thank you, sweetie. You did make me forget about my worries for a while.
Sometimes the most charming thing you can do is be reasonable in your requests.
I suppose you could use a break, and I could use a distraction.
One cryptid, like you said. One. This can't turn into some kind of cryptid extravaganza. We have things to do.
He nods and assumes a waiting posture. Ooh, tough choice there.
The Gnome of Jeroma. Oh, yes. None of its victims survived. Grieving relatives never even found their bodies because the gnome's venom dissolved organic tissue. It was reportedly a small creature with webbed fingers and a protruding forehead and a gangly little thing. Quite scary to look at. A couple of campers found it when it was already dying. They heard an odd wailing in the woods and followed the sound. They were scared and wrapped it in tarpaulin to suffocate it. It still took the Gnome of Jeroma an entire day to die.
If the body of the creature was found, why aren't there detailed illustrations of it in science textbooks, confirming the existence of this very little species?
Alas, the first scientist who got his hands on the creature's corpse put it in a jar of formaldehyde, thinking that would detoxify the gnome's venom. Instead, all the venom leaked out of the creature's teeth and into the surrounding liquid, dissolving the creature itself. A poetic end, perhaps, but a real loss for science.
Alas, always alas, and then it was gone. Isn't that overly convenient?
I understand your skepticism, but that's what happens with things that are rare and stand out. Their disappearance is most memorable, and they are least likely to be found again.
Hey, you promised you'd only ask about one cryptid.
He nods approvingly.
Can I help you? Another thing. Great. I love those. Yes, and the phone company is taking its sweet time sending someone to fix it. Losers. It's not strange, it's inconvenient. Who told you that? Fine, yeah, it looked like someone had messed with the wiring. It was shortly after the hanging, but I don't know if it's at all related. Plenty of assholes around here who aren't murderers. If you do find out who cut the line, though, let me know so I can forward them the repair bill. Yes?
A thin man is smoking below an exhaust hood, occasionally sipping from his mug. This must be the Whirling's cook. As you step in, he nods toward the table and says something in a completely foreign language. The only words you can make out are Garancy and Quebec. Okay, it's definitely not his name. Whatever you do, please don't call him Garancy Quebec. Please, it's not funny. The man puts his cup down and replies something, his left hand drawing arcs in the air. He smiles and bangs his ladle against each of his pots in turn. It's almost like music, especially with the sounds of assorted dishes boiling and simmering on the stove. You see a heavy steel door with a prominent dimple lock. It's painted blue. You immediately feel drawn to the color. Blue is for mystery.
You do? It's a door in the back of the kitchen. Why do you care where it leads? Eccentric. But okay, I suppose we could look into it. As a side investigation.
He's not bothered by your eccentricity. He seems genuinely intrigued himself.
Gart is the person to ask about this. The cafeteria manager.
Can I help you? Another thing. Great. I love those. Oh, yes, that door, sure. There's nothing mysterious about it. It's just a door. No, I don't have a key. I don't know how to get there. And I don't care either. It's not like I've been wondering about it for 10 years. It's just a frit warehouse, probably. Or some boring storage space with a bunch of old junk and dust. Junk and dust.
He's attempting to maintain an air of indifference. It's absolutely not convincing.
Fine, okay, a little. But my job doesn't leave me time for wondering about one locked door in one of the cafeterias I manage. So I haven't opened it. I have cleaned the whole place 100 times over, though, after the animals. And I haven't found a key, so good luck with that.
Let me handle this. Detective Disorientated. Are you still wondering where you are? This is Martinez, in case you've forgotten. I advise you not to overstay your welcome.
Her entire character has shifted. This young woman is cold as ice.
That's right. I am not a gardener. I'm a legal counselor for the Dock Workers Union. So let's get to it. You're looking for Titus Hardy? You think he has information that will help you? Maybe he does. That's Titus. Talk to him, but know this. I'll be keeping an eye on you. No strong arming, nothing official. The District of Martinez does not recognize your authority to make arrests.
It doesn't matter if you recognize our authority. We will make an arrest, if we have to.
She says nothing. Her glare speaks for her. Could this be the Miss Beaufort that Easy Leo mentioned? The one Mr. Everard sent to law school?
Like I already told you, I'm a legal counselor. Do you have hearing problems? I suggest not wasting time on trivial pleasantries and focusing on why you are actually here. Titus Hardy.
Even though she has excellent control over herself, something moved behind her eyes, in the way she stands, in her face. You caught her off guard. Push her some more.
You are not here to chat up the legal counsel. You are here to question these men.
You set the pace and the topic of these conversations here. Establish that.
I represent the union and these men here. Don't make this personal.
A very minor victory.
What you want is of no significance, officer. Don't test your authority. In Martinez, you are no one.
I saw what you were thinking. You want to say, what are you going to do to me? Don't. Just because it's in your head doesn't mean you have to say it. You will not lose out on anything good by not saying it.
Aggressive? You make your living enforcing violence. These people are just dock workers.
So you were spying on us, and now you represent murder suspects. Just dock workers.
Listen, you moral intern lackeys. You're a mob, enforcing the unlawful privatization of Revachol. 20 fat men in the Occident are stealing it all, and you're their bodyguards.
Fuck yeah.
So ask what you came to ask, or get back to your commanders. No one is emotional here. Do your job. Ask your questions, then leave.